This is how to create a summary in English 101. First of all, we need to understand what is a summary. It is a condensed version of a text. In other words, a shorter version. It presents the author's main ideas. So we are not giving our own ideas. We are not interpreting the author's ideas. We are faithfully and objectively presenting the author's major ideas. It eliminates minor details. So we don't get into the minutiae of facts and numbers. We want to focus on the key points, not the minor details. And a summary presents the author's ideas in the same order as the original. So we don't rearrange the ideas. We don't leave out some of them, just give the first part of the article and leave out the last page. We want to present all of the author's main ideas. Why are we making you summarize? Well, first of all, if you summarize something, that means that you are explaining it in your own words. And that forces you to understand the text. You have to have a close interaction with it. You need to understand what is actually in the article, and you need to understand the difference between the main ideas, the key points, and the minor details, things that obviously give substance to the article, but are not necessary to get the overview of the article. Summarizing also improves your reading comprehension, and in business applications, summarizing is used all the time, if not in a written form, in a verbal form, to present information. Perhaps you go to a conference and you need to report back, or you need to give a client an overview of a project. So it saves a lot of time in business applications. How do you summarize? Well, the first thing you need to do is carefully read and reread and probably read again the text. Identify what the overall point or thesis is of the text, and then try to pull out the key supporting points to back up that thesis. Again, eliminating the minutiae, the little facts and numbers and details, but focusing on those key points. Another really important part of summarizing, perhaps the hardest part, is that summarizing must be presenting the author's ideas in your own words, not copying and pasting from the article. There are 5 traits of a summary that we need to be aware of, and when you are graded on a formal written summary, these are the areas that we would focus on. First of all, it must be accurate. You must be true to what the author is saying. You can't put a spin on it. You can't add your own ideas. You need to faithfully and accurately report the author's ideas. Secondly, it has to be complete. You need to include all the major details. Again, not leaving out the end of it or skipping a section that you didn't think was important. You need to faithfully cover the whole article from beginning to end. Thirdly, it needs to be concise. In other words, shorter than the original. So you must leave out the minor details and focus on those key ideas. Fourthly, it needs to be objective. In other words, it cannot have your own opinion in it, or your own spin, or your own interpretation. You need to faithfully explain what the author is saying. And finally, you need to exhibit academic integrity in your summary. So you are not copying the author's words, either accidentally or on purpose. So obviously, if you were to just copy words and put them in your summary, that would be plagiarism. But even if you put in direct quotations with quotation marks in a summary, that still is not acceptable, because the whole point of a summary is that you are using your own words to explain the author's ideas. Now, an occasional short direct quotation is acceptable in a summary, but they should be very, very few. The primary material should be written with your writing style. Sounds like you. It's not copying the writer's writing style or exact words. We'll get into this more when you actually write a summary, but as you are explaining the author's ideas in your own words, you need to use what we call author attribution or attributive tags. In other words, you need to make it clear that the ideas you're presenting did come from the article. A couple of examples you see here: Pollan says, the author says, Jones maintains that, or according to the article. You want to use a variety of these attributive tags so that your summary is not repetitious. You may not need to use these for every sentence, but certainly for key supporting points and whenever something that is really opinion-based or could be challenged, or there are other points of view, you want to make it clear that you're not interpreting what the author says. You're giving a faithful record of what is in the article. Still using your own words, but using those author attribution tags. A couple of examples of author attribution. You can see them here. According to Rayner, in the last 3 years, millions of jobs have been lost in all branches of American manufacturing. That's a paraphrase using my own words, but clearly giving credit to whose idea it was. And the second example, Rayner concludes with a call to protect the rights of workers everywhere by rewriting the, quote, rules for the global economy, quote. Here I do use the exact words of the author. I clearly indicate that with quotation marks. It is very short, and there would be very few of those in the summary. So the criteria for an effective summary: it must represent the original accurately and fairly. It must be direct and concise, short. It must be objective and neutral. It must use the writer's own words to express the original author's ideas, and it must use appropriate author attribution techniques. And the assignment that we're going to start with is what we would call a summary planner. So we're doing a practice calling it a skills assessment number 1, but basically this is the preliminary step before you create a summary. So for skills assessment number 1, you're going to just fill out this worksheet, if you will. You will type all of your information. But this is a good way to get ready to actually type out a full-blown paragraph summary of an article. So the first thing you want to do is to identify the article and the author's thesis. So you want to include the title, the author's main idea or thesis. If you have the year and the source where it was published, that would be ideal as well. This introductory statement would actually be the first sentence of your summary. The next thing you want to do is simply go through the main ideas in order to give the author's key ideas. So for this skills assessment, you can see first main idea, second main idea, third main idea. For each main idea, there's space here for you to explain it. Remember, you are not interpreting it, and we are not just copying from the article. But the main idea may need an additional explanation to flesh it out. We do want to avoid minutia, particularly numbers that are not significant, perhaps a lot of insignificant names of people. We really want to focus on the key ideas. But there's room there for a support statement if you need one. And then the closing is how the author ended his or her article. So again, as a summary writer, we do not want to interpret this was a great article or give our evaluation of it. We simply faithfully want to say what was in the article. So a good way to end it would be to say the article concluded by, or the author ended with, and then explain what happened at the end of the article. So that in a nutshell is how to write a summary and how to fill out a summary planner.